Yes, it is Friday. RawMikeRichards.com. Broadcasting live from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. The Pacific Junction Hotel, 234 King Street East in downtown Toronto. And of course, it being a Friday, you know what that means. It's Picks-a-Palooza. Who's going to win? Tell us who's going to win. We're going to win. Victor Newman's Passionate Picks. You'll have the Dave Bastel Friday Foreplay. Russell Graham's Happy Endings. And maybe it's a good thing with that kind of language. I'm going to have the elite superstar lawyer from Ross and McBride, the legendary Jeff Manishin. And there's certainly enough legal issues to talk about when it comes to sports.
You like your lawyers, don't you?
Yeah.
Now you hire enough of them.
Yeah.
Hey.
One of the biggest parts of my audience historically,
Lawyers.
law firms. They're just waiting. They go, something's going to happen. So they're good if they're on your side.
Yes. Well, they usually are, aren't they? No? You work against them?
There's a couple times. We'll get to that, and as I like to say, Dave, and so much more.
Ooh, I love that tease.
I wonder how cold it's going to be in Philadelphia.
Really cold.
And New England. Yeah, cold weather football. I'm sure Bill Belichick will be in a great mood, as he always is, and we'll take a look, obviously, at those numbers, because that is what people will be. Like, it's a heavy wagering weekend.
Numbers are diving.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, New England game. Somebody's thumb hurts. Ow, I have an injury.
Yeah, well, guess what? That's as Stephen Rapp, who will also join us from Sports Interaction.
Yeah, not even saying his name correctly.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Stephen Rapp.
There you go. That's you know he's watching right now, Steve-O.
Yeah, we're also maybe going to talk about some because there's that 2-week layoff, so you need prop bets.
Yes,
you gotta fart around with something, and because you're going to sit there and just stare at those numbers, whatever the number is, and just keep staring. So we'll try to come up with some crazy prop bets.
Ooh, that does sound crazy.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I'll be honest. Like some of it, the historical ones, like national anthem singing. I'm rarely on it.
No,
like I'm really on it. Now, if I know who it is, and I kind of guess it may be the singing style, I'm like, okay, if it's contemporary singers where it's like, oh, say, can you see? I'm taking the over because they really don't kill the anthem.
No.
Like, what's your favorite anthem over the years?
Honestly, Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston was mine too.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Do you want to go do karate in the garage?
Yeah, I
do. Absolutely, that thing was stellar.
And I'm not even a Whitney Houston fan. Like I think she's a great, was a great artist of her time. But the anthem was like, hairs on your arms.
Yeah.
Hair, just woo. That's great.
Here's the thing, Whitney Houston, great at singing, bad at husband picking.
True. That is true.
Oh, if you see, I watched a documentary on it. It's brutal. It's crushing. How she picked that guy, I don't know. Yep. I still don't understand it, but that's like anything else in anyone else's family. You start picking on, well, why would that person be with that person? Just let it go. Just let it go.
Like,
that's one that's never going to win.
Like, look at Russell. Why would he do what he does, right?
Well, it's usually by himself, so I think that there's no foul on that, really, is there? So what if he calls some of those pages his girlfriends? They are. They talk to him. They're nice to him. They never hurt him. Russell's so quiet right now. It's like, once again, why me? Why does this even
grinding his teeth? He was telling me yesterday that he never caught the full Leaf game because he's watching Ghostbusters.
Really?
Just saying, yeah.
By the way, I'm going to do something in moments here, and I'm going to make this in particular because we kind of switch it around a little bit, where we talk about Rocky Cross Construction North. So RCCN, our good friends in Calgary. They are the people that you want to call if something goes wrong. If you're in the Calgary area, you certainly want to call RCCN or Rocky Construction North, Rocky Cross, simply because they're the best at what they do. Do we want to show that picture? Is that we don't have time? Okay. So okay, Russell, is it hurting you today? Do you have to? What is happening here? You're on your knees now. Okay. Well, this show all of a sudden.
Okay.
Well,
hey, boyo, get away from there, boy.
Hey, if that's what people want to do, I don't know. But I guess as I'm looking up, I'm killing time to figure out why. Do we not have that picture? No.
No, the internet is for this computer is being weird.
So we just continue on, though, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hey, we're still on me while I surf the web. That's awesome.
Okay, didn't see that going on either.
No.
Boy, we're off to a tremendous show. By the way, here's the moment that I talk about, sort of and again, brought to you by Rocky Cross
Yes.
Construction North, RCCN. It's a DKI company. Skating in Banff. This is sort of your moment of zen. And to me, what I think is really cool, not only visually what you're going to see, and it's going to be a smaller picture just because of where we got it from, but the sound of the skates, fantastic. Okay, this show is just unbelievable. Okay, so that's not working. Boy, we better hope the other stuff does, because I can just tell. Yeah, I love this live.
Smiling.
It's working out about as
Smiling
well as the Leafs last night
that
in
was solid.
Philadelphia. And again,
Blows another lead. Hee-haw.
slow starts by teams that do. We've talked about this before. Big video presentation. Look back at these
But
players.
usually the home team's the one that suffers from it,
Yes.
not the visitors.
But they get off to a slow start, and
They
I look
did,
at
yeah.
it. It's like 2-0. I'm like, okay, well, this is exactly what happens. And they blow it and cough up 2, Dave, in the third
Yep.
period, goes to overtime, and they lose.
Could I bring up one thing about this game? and I'm just going to throw this out there because there's a lot of hero worship going on right now with Frederik Andersen. So yesterday, the Leafs blow the 2-goal lead, and that's happened with every single NHL game and every single year of every single season in history. These things happen, and I know they're in a little bit of a funk right now, but so Anderson comes out after the game, and this is what he says, and this is what I was looking up while we were kind of figuring things out. So Frederik Andersen after the game, we got to regroup. We got to figure out who wants to commit to playing for the team. We got to have a different attitude. We have to find a way to keep the foot on the gas the whole game and can't be satisfied with a 2-0 lead. That sounds fantastic, but there's two sides of the sword here, folks. Nobody on this entire 20-man roster and coaching staff said anything about how badly Anderson stunk out the joint in October and parts of November for the last 2 years. So, Freddie, don't go around doing this crap here in the middle of January, because those first 15, 20 games that you're known for crapping the bed every single season, everybody was shh. So you stop it. Stop it. You play the Ottawa Senators on Saturday. That's a guaranteed win, and everything's back to normal. When your ego coach decides that Patrick Marleau should be playing on the top line with Austin Matthews like he was properly brought here for free agent-wise, everything's going to roll smoothly. But for now, shh. Okay, Mike, back to you.
Once again, that's Dave Bastel's Agree or Disagree. We'll put that promo out later. You let us know. Same bat time, same bat channel. By the way, Russell.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, of course. It's very good. Russell, are you upset by that? I bet the rest cam works.
Oh,
yeah, the other stuff doesn't work.
Of course it does. It's the best camera in here.
Yeah, does the rest cam work?
It works, yeah.
Oh, gee, there's a. Yeah.
I don't know. I saw the comments. Kind of warranted. I kind of agree with you based on the whole October thing, and no one was saying
Nobody
anything.
said anything.
That being said, since November, Anderson has been the Leafs' best player. So it's kind of, yeah. I was watching that game on and off last night, and
Between Ghostbusters?
Yeah, between
See?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just
It's a
more.
good movie. I like the movie. The original one, not
The
the
first
not the
one,
remake. Not the remake. Yeah,
the remake
yeah.
is stupid.
Yeah.
I'm just mad that they don't know how to defend a 2-on-1
True.
in overtime.
And it's disappointing when you drop games like that to a Flyers team that will not be part of the postseason.
They have been doing that a lot lately. And yeah, a 2-goal lead going into the third period. Like this was last year's Leafs. at the start of this year, they were kind of bending but not breaking with giving up the leads, and now they're back to the team they were last year, where they can't hold leads in the third period, and they end up losing the games in overtime.
Well, there you go. There's the roast beef assessment.
Yeah.
Right there. And I guess
right there.
We'll take a look at. By the way, I also.
What do you got?
Sorry, it's the green pea. It's always the magic of the parking world. Stephen Rapp. So I'll just need the little magical number of Stephen Rapp, as we're going to take a look at some of the lines as they have moved. And now, if you wanted to get some points, and if you jumped in early and got probably plus 9.5 on Jacksonville,
this guy,
that would be the way to go. I don't see it going under. I mean, look, they're not stupid in Vegas. They're not going to give you minus 6.5. 7.5 is probably the best you're going to get. But on the other hand, right now I look at it, Dave. That's still not bad.
Yeah, I wonder how serious that injury is. Because if they're dropping 2 points off of a Tom Brady possible injury that they're trying to hide, I mean, a thumb for a quarterback, if that's what it truly is, that's very worrisome. And if it's Brian Hoyer in a quarterback for the Patriots, get ready. Jacksonville wins this game if Brian Hoyer actually plays this game. I'm just saying that right now. Jacksonville might win this game even if it doesn't. Oh, I'm just joking. Wait, it'll be close.
Well,
I love the points.
Need to talk to the man who knows.
Dr. Vinny Boombutt, Tom Brady's official doctor.
Yeah, and listen, Stephen Rapp, do you buy anything that comes out of the New England camp before I don't know, a kickoff of a football game? Because I just completely ignore it. I ignore it.
No, I mean, how can you buy into this one? I mean, but it's knocking the crap out of the offshores, the betting world. I mean, there are books talking about taking this number down now. Belichick was asked today, and his answer is it's Friday. I mean, he's not giving up anything. I would be absolutely shocked if Tom Brady does not play this game. I would be beyond shocked if Tom Brady does not play this game on Sunday.
It's hard to shock Stephen Rapp as well. Good morning, Stephen.
Yeah.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pal.
So the number is related to the so-called rumors of his health, or is it just those thinking that maybe Jacksonville is a little disrespected and maybe they keep this game a lot tighter than 9.5? Because, taking 9.5 points, that's a pretty good number if you got in early.
I've heard both, Michael. I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I know that when this line dropped from 8 to 7.5 yesterday, I spoke to a friend of mine in the business who told me that they had just got hit by some sharp action 15 minutes before, which moved that number. A lot of it has to do with sharp guys getting out, professional money getting out in front of this report, knowing that it was going to be a little bit bigger than it is. I mean, we've talked about that in the past, David. I mean, sharp money, professional money, where are they getting their information? Sometimes their information is just better than ours.
Yep.
Also 8 and 9, basically a dead number. Though we thought last week 5 was a dead number too, and look what happened in the Minnesota game. So it had 5 hit. But basically a dead number, 8 and 9. So not a huge move, but Michael, a combination of both. It definitely has been professional money, thinking that Jacksonville's defense can keep this one close and getting out in front of this Tom Brady news.
You know what? The way the Jaguars played in Pittsburgh, and I'm not going to say the Steelers and the Patriots are an exact replica of each other or anything of that nature, but we're talking the Florida team playing in cold weather. I don't think this is a factor at all. It's supposed to be cold again in the Boston area for that New England game, that New England home game. And you know what? Whether or not the Tom Brady finger or thumb or whatever they're calling it is healthy or not healthy, I do think it's closer than a lot of people think. I'm not going to sit there and say Jacksonville outright winners like some people that have Super Bowl tickets on the Jaguars. Stephen Rapp.
I don't say they're at the cat.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll say this, and we were talking about it before we got on talking to you. If Brian Hoyer plays this game for some unknown reason, the Jaguars are going to Minnesota, Stephen.
Well, first, I don't believe Brian Hoyer is playing this game. But, I mean, you want reasons why Jacksonville could win this game? Teams that beat New England and Brady batter and beat them. They rush them. They drive them crazy. Jacksonville does that with 4 rushers. So that means they're, they had a lot of guys in secondary. Their secondary is outstanding. Their defense outstanding. Their defensive line is deep. But you know what? The problem is, if I know that, I'm pretty sure Bill Belichick knows that as well. And this guy just designs things to beat teams. So yeah, I think Jacksonville can keep it close. But would I be shocked if New England ran away with it? No, I wouldn't. I would actually, guys, be looking at some props. I mean, how is Belichick going to beat this pass rush? Who knows they're coming after Brady? What's he going to do? Lots of stuff to the running back, lots of screen passes to try to beat the rush. Maybe you look at guys like Burkhead over 30.5 yards. You look at Deion Lewis over 4 receptions. I think that is the way I'm going to be looking at this game. And then, of course, David, as you mentioned, hoping New England gets ahead, hoping that Jacksonville gets the lead at some point, and I can in play plus New England money to hedge my Super Bowl bet.
We're in conversation with Stephen Rapp from Sports Interaction here on ronmkerichards.com, and also those watching on the dedicated YouTube channel. You know, this usually is the time of year where I take a look at a lot of unders. Certainly when I saw last week Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, I thought, well, this, it's going to be colder weather, it's going to be a little tighter, and then Blake Bortles wasn't Blake Bortles. And so I'm taking a look at Jacksonville, New England, and both Minnesota and Philadelphia, cold weather football games, conference championships. My gut would still say we'll take some unders, but at 39.5 in Minnesota, Philadelphia, I mean, that's going to be pretty tight. That's a low number. I'm not saying it wouldn't go number, but are you teased at all or intrigued at all by totals this weekend?
I would actually, I know it's a low number, 39.5. Well, that's 39.5 Sports Interaction now, which has actually gone up. Sharp money has been on that over. Professionals on the over in that game. Minnesota, Philadelphia, sharp money on the under, public on the over, as it's always going to be. This game, this is the best defense Case Keenum has come up against all year. He's played 2 top 10 defenses all year. In those games, he had a 71 passer rating. He was sacked 8 times. Last week, he was 3 for 11 for 42 yards when under pressure. These are 2 quarterbacks on both sides of the ball, 2 offenses that are going to play it very tight, very conservatively. These teams actually mirror each other. I'm interested in taking points in a game like this, obviously taking a 3. Actually, I took 3.5, hoping I can lay 2.5 later in the week. But if you want, I think it's going to be low scoring. I would look at the under 39.5. In this game, I would look at props. Elliott and Forbath kicking props, because long field goal, how many field goals made, total points for kickers. Because I think this is, as you say, cold weather game, very conservative offenses, letting the defenses win it, not want to make too many problems, too many mistakes with these 2 quarterbacks. I see lots of conservative play and lots to be done in the kicking game. So when it comes down to field goals, A, I'd obviously like to take +3, and B, I'll take kicker props and the under.
Okay, as far as the totals is concerned, then in that New England game, 46.5 seems like a higher number if number 12 isn't fully healthy. Are you at all tempted at looking at that and the under?
I'm tempted to look at the under in the Jacksonville New England game only because Jacksonville has to know. I'm going to assume that Brady's playing. I'm going to assume that Brady's playing.
Yeah, please.
Jacksonville
please.
has. Thank you very much. And I am a doctor, even though I play one on the radio, so I know. I'm going to believe that Jacksonville knows that they cannot get into a shootout with New England. They cannot win this game in a shootout. They cannot cover the spread if they get into a shootout. So this has to be Blake Bortles just running the clock, letting Fournette do the work, slowing it down, playing defense, trying to keep New England down to 17, 20 points, 24 maybe. 24 will go over if Jacksonville covers. I think I actually in both these games would lean to the under here. I think it's going to be Jacksonville knows they can't get into a shootout.
Yep.
Stephen, do you think Minnesota is going to host a Super Bowl in their own town?
I'm on Philadelphia. I'm on Philadelphia.
Okay.
I took the +3.5. I think they're being disrespected. I think this gives Case Keenum way too much value over Nick Foles. Philadelphia was at home last week, and they're at home this week because they were the number 1 seed. So Foles had a bad game against Oakland in windy, blustery conditions, and then it was a nothing game the next week that they lost. He only played half the game. I mean, give this guy a little more credit. And if you look at Case Keenum last week, he was throwing ducks. He was lucky not to be intercepted. He took 2 bad sacks. This just overvalues Keenum over Foles. Philadelphia's at home for a reason. I think they win this game. I take the +3.
Now, not that we're going to definitely say something today, but you and I had talked about maybe some, because you get the 2-week layoff. Maybe we're going to come up with some crazy prop bets. Some nutty prop bets.
They have to be vetted, Mike, because it can't be like Brady TDs versus how many chicken wings you eat on Super Bowl Sunday. That's not a prop that can be properly vetted because that could be manipulated a little bit. But I was talking to Phil Gray at Sports Reaction, and if you want to come up with some good, decent props, we'll call them Mike specials, and you can promote them all week for all your listeners, and they can actually bet into them. You come up with a couple different ideas for funny, good props that make some sense, and they not have to make complete sense because there's a number for everything, as Phil told me yesterday. Up with some props that make some sense. He will put numbers on them, and you and your listeners and watchers can just fire away at them for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I like it. That's a good idea. That is a very good
really
idea.
good idea.
That is
yeah.
a very good idea. Stephen, thanks
You
so
guys
much.
come up with something. Come up with something good, and a couple of good and funny ones, and don't put them up.
Yeah, and
Maybe your listeners can email you, tweet you, and come up with some ideas as well.
Exactly. So if you're listening to Stephen right now, remember, if we're going to come up with some of these crazy prop bets, but crazy within reason, interesting prop bets, if you're watching right now, either on the website or the dedicated YouTube channel or on Twitter, send me a couple. I might use them. And if I do, you'll get
verifiable.
Yeah, identifiable prop. Yes, that we can verify. That kind of thing.
Yeah, we can't we can't verify how many kegs of beer somebody drinks, or how they have to be something that's absolutely verifiable that you can put up two things together where you can actually get the numbers, and then we can come up with a number, and you guys can have fun with them. So verifiable props, but they can be as crazy as you want.
Beautiful. Hey, Stephen, thanks so much for today. Always appreciate the time.
Thanks, buddy.
My pleasure. We'll see you on Sunday, David.
You got it.
That is Stephen Rapp, and of course he's alluding to the fact that you can also hear David and Stephen and
Jorge on
a bunch of stations, but here in Toronto on the
10 o'clock Sunday mornings on 590. Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, Steven's riding the wave right now. He's a perfect 6-0 in his last 6 bets.
He never said that. He never brought it up.
No, I know.
That's humility.
It is. And you know what? That guy doesn't have it.
That's a virtue. One that I did not see coming.
But he is on fire. On fire. Kind of pisses me off.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Jeff Manishin has been dropped off. Boy, that's a long limo. That's almost as big as Victor
Newman. Exactly.
That is just wow. You got to be big time for that. And I don't know if Jeff realizes of course, the superstar lawyer that we have here in this country, if he's going to be talking with Victor Newman when Victor makes his picks.
Well, he's about to find out.
He'll be Jeff Manishin and Victor Newman's passionate picks, and I can tell you that's a first. And also, as we bring him in here, in case you missed it, this is also one of Jeff's favorite sports.
Yes.
And he, from what I understand, occasionally makes a wager on it. Who wouldn't? Once you see this. Well, I guess I don't know if Jeff Manishin has wagered on that particular match, but as you've seen during the week, that is sensational stuff.
Yeah.
And so now,
that's one way of saying it. Yeah.
From Ross and McBride, although I don't know about McBride. Jeff Manishin, the superstar lawyer, finally in studio.
There we go.
Pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Long time waiting. Finally here. First time caller, long time listener.
Right.
There you go.
Now on the show. See how easy it is? I mean, most people say, I'm on the show. You want to be on the show? Thanks for calling. Now you're on the show. For people who don't know, because you've been featured on television stations, news, simply because of your expertise. And people say, well, why would someone go to sort of the expert legal advice from a particular individual lawyer? Well, I would suggest when the background and the name Eddie Greenspan comes up, generally that's probably in the very good category. So for people who don't know, and again, you've called in the show for a while, your background exactly is what?
Sure. I went into law school at Osgoode Hall in Toronto in 1972 and graduated in 75, and worked as a summer student for and got to article for Eddie Greenspan. And so I got to see him do a murder trial start to finish, work on a variety of cases with him, developed a great friendship with him, and he literally, Mike, got me my first job. He contacted the director of Crown Attorneys for the province and gave me a really good reference. And that led to my getting a job as a contract Crown working in Hamilton, where I worked starting from 1977. And I was an assistant Crown there from 77 to 85, and then I switched to defense work.
Now, for people trying to put, in perspective an Eddie Greenspan on what he is to this country, what is it in the States? Who is he of a name that we'd know? Because I know for some people it's more television and movie-like, but what is that equivalent? Because is there really anyone equal in what he does in this country?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Certainly in terms of the United States, I mean, historically, we'd go back and we'd say, F. Lee Bailey, somebody like that.
Right.
Somebody who has been well recognized as being a champion of the criminal defense bar. And certainly that's what Eddie was for many years. He passed away 3 years ago. I think it was December the 24th. At the present time, one of his kind of proteges is certainly developing an outstanding reputation, a woman named Marie Hennon. Marie, article for Eddie, juniored for him, was a partner of his, set up on her own firm. She represented Jian Ghomeshi.
Right, I mean, that was huge.
And Marie is so well respected at a national level and still relatively young. So she's one of the people that comes to mind almost first and foremost as an outstanding criminal lawyer who has got a terrific future ahead of her, recognizing the terrific work she does right now.
Now, you talk about recognized. Are there lawyers, because I think it would take a specific kind of individual who would, I don't know if relish is the word, but lean towards higher profile cases? Does it take a certain kind of person who's okay with the limelight, who's relatively sophisticated when it comes to the media and addressing media? I would think that takes, you talk about Maria, the moment she takes that case, and being a woman, well, we saw what happened. It was a massive media storm. So I would think it takes a special kind of person to do that.
Well, I think the way I'd phrase it, Mike, is most criminal lawyers don't have a chance to have the experience of dealing with the media on an ongoing basis. So much of what happens in the criminal justice system across the country goes on unrecognized. It gets no news coverage. It gets no TV coverage. So from the standpoint of an experience that it'd be comfortable for a criminal lawyer to be in front of the camera, to deal with the press, it's really very foreign for them. On the other hand, if you get one and you can handle it, then potentially other cases might come to you and you get more used to dealing with the media. I mean, for me, for my background, I've had some fairly high-profile cases.
Yes.
I've had involvement with the media from when I was a kid.
What's the biggest case do you think that people may know or be familiar with in your career?
Wow. Well, years back as a prosecutor, I prosecuted the mayor of Welland for stealing money from bingos. He and a priest were running bingos for charity.
Oh, jeez.
And they were charged with fraud, and he was convicted. I prosecuted a biker who was very high on cocaine, and he shot and killed an 18-year-old young woman and a little boy. And his defense was cocaine-induced psychosis, toxic psychosis. He was insane because of cocaine. He was convicted of second-degree murder. I've done cases certainly in Hamilton that have gotten some coverage. Over the course of time, there was a doctor that I represented some years ago. I've represented different people charged with murder. I've done some special prosecutions involving Toronto police officers, involving a guy who was a lawyer, was involved in the money laundering, a variety of cases. I don't know that I'd say anything that's gotten national attention, but cases that have certainly gotten local and regional, and to some extent some things out of Toronto.
How tough is that when you're defending a possible murder suspect or a guy that's charged with murder, not like because of the personal side of things? Like, do you ever sit there, and I'm not asking you to look into certain cases, but do you ever sit there and go, I clearly know this guy has done this, or I think he has done this, but yet I have to defend? Is that tough to ride that line?
It isn't. It isn't at all. Because when you're going into the job, you realize there's a measure of detachment where you're saying, look, it's a case. And I have a responsibility to do what I have to do to represent the individual.
Detachment's a good way of putting it, too.
And loads of cases, Dave, you do know the person's done it. The nature of the evidence is very clear that they've done it, but the issue becomes what was their state, what was the individual's state of mind at the time?
Yes.
Were they acting through provocation, through self-defense? Was it an issue of a psychiatric state? Sometimes, too, when I did one some years back where the major evidence they had against him was a statement that he made, which in turn led him to take him to the gun and the money and so forth, and they had a friend of his who had lent him the gun. Now, this was a bit of a different challenge, Dave, because in that one, there were some very real challenges to the admissibility of the guy's statement. And I got the statement excluded. And I got the gun and the money excluded. And we were into the realm of, what about the civilian witness? And I was going to take the position that potentially they only got him because he'd been made aware my guy was making this confession.
Right.
And if the confession's out, maybe the individual's evidence is out. Ultimately, we resolved it for manslaughter. But that was one that was an interesting challenge because you say, gee, I could wind up with a guy who I certainly know did it.
Yeah.
All the evidence was he did it, but because of legal issues, and they were validly run, there were significant infringements of his rights.
Sure.
He could have wound up walking out the door for a crime that he did commit.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, it's it's interesting that you talk about in defense, and you mentioned the case where it was considered to be narcotically induced. In this day and age, it seems that when there is an issue of fault, and it could be on many levels, and not saying that murder wouldn't be included in that, but with the, I guess, discovery of the human condition respecting depression and mental issue, it just seems like to me, at some point, that it just immediately becomes a default defense. Societally, just in society, not a legal one. But I'm wondering, in this day and age, are you seeing more and more of that card being played, saying this person was chemically imbalanced at that time, this person wasn't properly medicated, this person was correctly medicated? It just seems like mental issues must play a bigger role, maybe, in the world of legal argument.
Well, I think the way I'd phrase it, Mike, is this: from the standpoint of a defense that the person was not criminally responsible by mental disorder, the burden's on us. On that one, the burden of proof is on the defense to show the person was not criminally responsible. Everyone is presumed to be criminally responsible, so you've got to show it's a disease of the mind that led to the condition. Now, could the disease have been predicated on some form of drug abuse? Sure. I wouldn't say you're seeing a lot of that. Is it relevant on sentence? So it's not so much a matter of the person's ability to know whether what he was doing was wrong or not, which is what you need as the step for a not criminally responsible defense. But abuse of drugs contributes a lot to the commission of offenses, but so does abuse of alcohol. And it's not an excuse. What it becomes is a factor that might explain why somebody did what they did, and you look to try and develop what you can do that the person won't do it again. That becomes an issue on sentencing. How badly do you punish somebody who may well have been in a state where in his or her right mind, fully right mind, non-addicted mind, they wouldn't have committed the offense. But drugs are significant, and one that's a big one is fentanyl. We're seeing widespread use, and you're seeing robberies of pharmacies and other places for fentanyl. Courts are dealing with them very seriously with respect to sentencing. So that's not quite on the issue of the mental state. That's the crime of stealing the fentanyl. But issues of things like drug abuse and so forth, I wouldn't say there's an increased level. I think maybe there can be a heightened awareness. I'll give you another one that I've seen in for young people, and I've only become more aware of it in the last, say, few years. Attention deficit disorder.
As a defense? Not
as a defense, because it doesn't affect the state of mind to the point where the person didn't form the intent, but as relevant on sentence, as relevant on coming to understand, and particularly for young people, the instances of it being undiagnosed or not properly treated. And remember that ADHD will lead to impulsive behavior, lead to issues of judgment and self-control. And for young people, if that's not properly addressed, can you see a young person then repeatedly being involved in the criminal justice system because of bad judgment and bad self-control until it's ultimately diagnosed?
Russell's very much like that. I don't know what.
I can see it as he sits here.
Russell
has I sort of had that feeling as I was coming in. I said, I think I see Exhibit A. Get that man some Ritalin. Get that man some Adderall.
Ritalin. Well, I'll tell you.
Yep.
You got a six-pack of that.
That's one that and it's only, I'm speaking as experienced criminal defense lawyer. I've come to learn more about that one in the last number of years and seen instances in which it's been undiagnosed or untreated.
We've seen, changing this into a little bit of sports and what we see, for example, on the ice. And I know this has come into conversation a number of times in the last 20, 30 years, maybe not so much in the NHL because we don't see the actual fight itself or the stick swinging incident. If I were to go on King Street East here and hit somebody with a hockey stick, I would be charged with some sort of measure of assault, but we don't see that in the NHL. But we have seen that threat, that incident could be taken to court. Why haven't we seen anything like that before, and why hasn't it gone to that level?
Oh, gosh, we have seen instances of people being charged. Marty McSorley, for one. We've seen people being charged in NHL
but
hockey
not
games.
to the full extent.
Well, what you've seen, I think, Dave, and there have been others. I mean, there have been a number of other instances over the course of years.
Yeah, Donald Brashear, the helmet.
That's another one. Okay, so what you'll see is charges of assault with a weapon or assault causing bodily harm. The issue becomes a matter of what's the right kind of punishment. And I think to stay with that point, Dave, I don't know that you're going to say we're going to jail a guy for an assault with a weapon or assault bodily harm. Okay, Todd Bertuzzi was another one.
Yes.
All right, with significant consequences because it's within a framework where there's a significant amount of violence that's permitted within the rules, a certain amount of violence that's permitted in the sense of there are penalties for it. Where the criminal justice comes in is where the conduct goes beyond the scope of what could reasonably be expected within the consent level of the game. But now you say, fine, but what's the level of punishment you want to do for that? You wouldn't see the same kind of punishment for somebody who is involved in a game where there's that kind of force, that kind of sanction is distinct from the innocent citizen on the street. Now, would you say it's been adequately punished or not? The idea of jailing somebody for a stick swinging incident, that's a bit of a reach. I don't think realistically we as sports fans or anybody would expect that. But long suspensions, potentially being kicked out of the league, and the criminal conviction, those are things that are all significant. We haven't seen as many of those. The stick swinging and things, we don't see that as much anymore.
Well, so you started in 72.
Yeah.
You're
I got my call to the bar in 77, so it's been over 40 years that I've been practicing.
Okay, so was that bragging? I'm sorry, I didn't even ask that question.
Yeah.
But
oh, it's just that's bragging. It ain't bragging if you do it.
No,
that's
right.
what I leave.
That's right.
I've earned these gray hairs, every one of them.
Roy McMurtry, did you ever work with him?
Yeah, actually, he was the Attorney General when I started.
So
and so I've met him a number of times. He's written a book about his life. So I would say he's one of the best attorneys general we've ever had.
Well, and what just Dave talked about, we're talking about the mid-'70s, the Philadelphia Flyers, and what was the charge going to be?
Oh, I think there were some assaults and assault bodily harms, and in fact, you will remember too, and I got to this game minutes after it happened, Danny Maloney and Brian Glennie. Okay. He hit Glennie, he knocked him out, and then apparently banged his head up and down on the ice. And I was at that game, and I got there about 10 minutes after the fight.
Oh.
Okay, I got there late. Somebody gave me tickets. Somebody said, hey, did you see what happened? I said, what? Glennie just got clobbered by Maloney. I said, what did he get? He said, 5 minutes. I said, he should have got 6 months. Thinking as a criminal lawyer.
Yeah, you're sneaking your card onto the ice.
There we are.
Call me.
Okay.
Call.
It turned out he got charged.
Yeah.
Maloney got charged. A jury acquitted him. But the Philadelphia Flyer prosecutions were under McMurtry's watch, and he thought things were really going overboard. I don't know that it made a big difference because we still did have bench clearing brawls and things for a while. I think it took a culture change over time. I wouldn't call it prosecutions that did it.
The cultural change, I guess, in the area of what do they call them, combative sports and a lot of other issues where it's the issue of concussion, and those athletes have been concussed, and so you're seeing virtually lobby groups. You're seeing, the collective amongst former players and alumni going at leagues and talking about, their I guess, legal responsibility and huge punitive damages. Where do you think this goes? Because we take a look at football each and every week, and every week they implement more and more rules for player safety, but it's also due to the fact I think it's a liability issue. Do you think at some point where you see this going, because the monies are huge, they're just enormous, that sometimes Dave and I talk and I think, I wonder at some point, do we still see football in the future? Because how do you not, to me, you play the sport because you're wired that way. We want to go out, Dave wants to hit me, I want to hit him, we put on the hard plastic, we go at each other, we know what the sport is because we love it, we love the contact, and then at the end of the day, maybe you only played a year or two, or the average is about 3.5 years in professional sports. I say, how could you not know that was going to be damaging to my brain?
Well, that too is an interesting one, Mike. I think from the standpoint of public interest, there's still a significant entertainment value to things like football and hockey and boxing. I mean, sports where there's mixed martial arts. I personally don't watch any of that. I have no interest in that stuff because it's such clear, pure violence. There isn't, as far as I'm concerned, a feature of it that I find interesting. But if we went back a couple of notches and we say football, I mean, this has been a terrible year for injuries, and not simply concussions, but a wealth of other injuries too. But the ratings are still up. I think a feature that hasn't got quite the kind of attention and emphasis that I, as a lawyer, look at when I read about and hear about these cases, and I've read a bit about concussions in the United States, is the extent to which it would appear that the NFL was aware of the risk of concussions and hid medical evidence that they were aware of from the players. So to stay with the point you raised, a player is voluntarily engaging in the sport to some extent, has a responsibility to ensure that the player is aware of the risk he's undertaking. And to me, the core of the claim that the NFL had, the Players Association had against the NFL, was that concealment of information which could have been relevant to a given player's decision to play or not. Now, we got a lawsuit going, I think, in the CFL, if I'm not mistaken. And we have a lawsuit NHL. Well, I don't know about what the evidence will be in terms of any concealment by those leagues in relation to information they had on the potential risks of concussion by playing the sport. And that may well be a factor in the way that litigation goes, unless the leagues say, look, we want to settle because we don't want to have, all this thing fought out in the public. But to the extent I've been reading and following it, in the NFL, there was concealment. I haven't read or heard anything about that in NHL or CFL, and so we'll see how that litigation plays out. But let's come back to the starting point, which is the player is aware now there's a risk of concussion. And if the player voluntarily plays, sure, the game has responsibility to make it safe, but to what extent does the player have a consent to participate in the activity? They know the risks.
It as I said, it just, sometimes people look at it and they say, are you serious? You didn't think putting on the helmet going against another a guy who's 295 pounds and he runs the 40 in less than 5 seconds. At some point, I'm sure you realized that this wasn't volleyball. But on the other hand, with the monies that are involved at that level, you've got a CBA coming up. So we know we have football through 2022, 2021 in there somewhere.
Yep.
But DeMaurice Smith, who's the head of the players, so it just looks like there is going to be a war at some point, a lot of issues, and not withholding issues like Zeke Elliott and him getting a tougher sort of judgment than the law of the land passed out. And I think that's where a lot of this disdain from the Players Association said, well, how can he not have formal charges from the law of the land, and yet the NFL seemed to supersede that. And that, I think, isn't the start of it, but that's a big part of it.
Well, sure, and in fact, in the next CBA, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the whole measure of league discipline is going to be reviewed. I think to some extent we could say that the Players Association gave away the store on that. That in the course of negotiation, to be able to let Goodell be able to impose discipline and effectively sit on appeal of himself.
Yeah.
Well, where is a fair, objective, impartial, and unbiased way to be able to decide such an issue if you consider it important enough where you feel you're going to get a fair hearing with a proper sanction, with the capacity for review? They gave that one away, but we know historically. A line I sometimes use when somebody says, how long can you hang in and how persistent can you be? I think it was Gene Upshaw with the Players Association strike many years ago. They said, how long can you guys stay out? A day longer than the owners. I use that as a phrase for persistence. And then they folded.
Yeah.
And from the standpoint of league, players' union negotiations over the years, the NFL has, I think, historically been considered to be the weakest. They don't have guaranteed contracts like other leagues do.
Yeah.
And I think it was another example of giving away the store. So I'm sure you're right, Mike. In the next go-around, the issue of league discipline will be certainly a significant factor.
You a big fan of The Young and the Restless?
My wife watches it.
Yeah.
So occasionally when I come home, she's watching and I switch over to Pardon the Interruption.
Okay.
Okay, she finishes her show.
Well, you're familiar with some of the characters.
Very Victor.
Victor.
Yeah, you've had
Oh.
Victor on the show.
Yeah,
No,
'cause,
is he pulling up now?
He's
Because he's going to talk to you in a
actually
second.
the
He's
reason
making
I-
his picks.
Yeah, the reason
he's
I
making
ask-
his picks?
Yeah,
Yes,
Victor,
with you.
Yeah, Victor Newman's Newman's limousine has pulled up, and we welcome to the show Victor Newman. Good morning, and welcome to Raw. Mike Richards.
Wait. I've got to say something about this damn show, all right? Normally, it's a real dog and pony damn thing that I don't give a shit about because the things you talk about are embarrassing. Sexy girls and farts and going to strip joints. Not that I didn't meet Nikki in a strip joint, of course, but that's different. But you've got Jeff Manishin, someone with class and dignity.
Absolutely.
Someone with a real profession. Although he talks far too much, and if I'm paying my lawyer, shut the hell up, that's what I'm saying to him. It's far too much talking. So I would just like to say good morning to you, Jeff Manishin.
Good morning, Victor. It's my pleasure. If Newman Industries needs a criminal lawyer, I'd be pleased to be of assistance.
I will have Miguel get a hold of you, all right? That's a good answer. Here's the picks from Victor Newman, and trust me, you're going to win this week. I'm going to start with the controversial New England at -7.5. If you think for 1 second I'm going to listen to that damn nonsense about poor Tommy Brady not being able to play, you're a damn idiot. He is, and at -7.5, the number has dropped. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to take it. I am taking New England, and a horrible number, but I think they cover. Let's also take a look at the second game. Going to be played in the cold with two quarterbacks. I don't know how much they're going to score. They're going to score less than Russell Graham. So listen to me. I'm going to take under 18.5 in the first half. It pays a 195. That's good money. Maybe not for Jeff Manishin and his helicopter that goes to his house in Hamilton every night, but it's still good money for you. Let's look at college basketball tonight. Iona is playing Monmouth. Monmouth, normally a good school, not this year. Iona, damn good at -2.5 on the road. You take that. Also, Illinois and Wisconsin take the under at 139.5. Both of them, they are challenged when it comes to offense. That's a good number. And the University of Buffalo. Tell me, Jeff Manishin, you're close to Buffalo. Do you ever go to see the sports south of the border?
I do. In fact, I got saved.
We don't have time for that story. Let's continue on. Take Buffalo -3.5. In the Premiership, take Leicester City. They play Watford. Really, it should be called Dumford. They're not going to win. And Liverpool on Sunday, -1.5. Take that. That's the Asian money line. And they're going to beat Swansea because they're terrible. Those are Victor Newman's passionate picks. Now back to you, Jeff Manishin. You're a damn handsome man, by the way.
Bless you, Victor. And you know, too, you've got good taste.
Yes, well, tell your wife I said hello.
Victor Newman and the Passionate Picks.
That is really, boy, there's a pairing I didn't see come up. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. Do you wager at all? Are you allowed to talk about that? Is it against?
I used to go down to Vegas from time to time and go over to the sports book and put something down on
Sure.
the Final Four,
Nice.
maybe,
Yeah.
or the Super Bowl. So I've won a few and lost a few, but not really. Because I mean, hey, do you think that I would have picked Jacksonville over Pittsburgh?
Yeah, no.
As the game is going on and I'm not watching, a buddy says, "Hey, you watching the game?" I said, "It was tough enough to watch Blake Bortles and Tyrod the week before. I can't look at that again."
Well, also I would think in court as the guy's sitting there and the judge is in, you're going, "Oh, come on, Smith, make a free throw." You know, I got to think the defense probably pleased with that.
Well, you know, it's funny in terms of sports. What you guys are doing, I don't know that I'd say this is living my dream, but on the other hand, the world
In
of
this place?
yeah, I mean, what more could you want? Okay, this is sort of luxurious. Okay, and it's affiliated with what was it, the Grunge Radio Network? What did I see outside?
Oh, Girth, it's
Girth.
called. Yes.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, you want to have that on your resume.
Oh, I want girth. Okay. Who doesn't?
Yeah, well,
Who doesn't want girth in today's
absolutely.
society? But to do sports, fun.
Well, I'll tell you what. This is Friday. We have various picks. By the way, on Twitter, people are like, "Man, I love those pads." There's a story there with Dave
Yeah,
Bastel. They are
yeah,
Dave's. They
yeah.
are now Dave's pads.
That's right.
He's got them. They're supposed to be for street hockey to play with his children, and all of a sudden, it's been substituted as they are now pads that will be insinuated over his bar.
I'll show Jeff them really quick.
There.
I
That's
bought
the way pads should look.
I bought a
Yeah.
pair of some vintage brown gold pads.
They weren't from Kaneski's in Hamilton now.
No,
No, they weren't.
No.
Could have been gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are awesome.
So I've been taunting them around, and Mike, being a former goaltender, was more than happy to pick them up for me because I bought them from a gentleman in Oshawa, and hey, I'm gonna keep these in the same condition for quite some time. I think.
Well, this is Friday, which means it is time for what Dave Bastel does, and he does this. It's Friday, and you know what that means. A little full play with Dave Bastel. Jeff Manishin. He gonna give you some full play you won't forget. That's for sure. Brought to you by Sports Interaction Canada's online sports book. Give it something to me, big sexy. big sexy.
Yeah, that would describe me in a nutshell. Thanks to Mike Luck for that voiceover. First of all, I'm on Jacksonville this weekend, not to win, but because of the points. I bought this at 9.5, and today's betting it's down to 7.5. So I guess for all intents purposes, I have to take the 7.5 right now, but I do have the 9.5. Trust me, I do. I also like Minnesota. I think Minnesota wins outright. I don't know what Steven Rapp's thinking about. Philadelphia does not win this game, and the only reason they don't win this game is have a nice defense, but the offense isn't going to keep up like the Saints were able to keep up, and the Saints still should have been at this game. I had the Saints to win this game. I had the Saints to win the next game.
Still angry.
I'm still disappointed about that.
He's angry.
Also, in both games, I like the under. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored in these games. When you look at New England, Jacksonville, 46.5 points is a lot of points. Tom Brady isn't 100% healthy. Blake Bortles cannot possibly put up another big game like this, can he? No, he can't. Also, that Minnesota-Philadelphia game, two good defenses, two suspect offenses, one even more so than the other. So take the under in that one. There's my foreplay. Go to the bank with that. $25, 347.
Wow, that's pretty good. Jeff, what do you think of that? Do you like those picks?
Makes sense to me. I agree
Convincing?
with everything. Very,
Convincing?
very much so.
You'll like this next one here.
Well, this is this one that's normally we have the sexy picks of gold sex as well, but we won't be doing that today as we will have. Get ready for this one. This is Russell Graham's Happy Endings. And all NHL, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
but only one line open in the NHL today.
Yeah.
So
See, that's the problem. You get gooned on Fridays because it's really not a busy day. So you're always limited. But what do you got? What magically for
I'll
us?
stick with it. I'll go with Dave's Patriot or the under in the Patriots game. I'll take that for Sunday because just to add on.
And you're a Patriots fan too, aren't you?
I am a Patriots fan. Yeah.
Like if you saw Tom Brady, would you kiss him? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. I mean, I'm not reading into it. I'm just saying, would you?
I might have to grab a stool first because taller. But
Grab a
like,
stool. What websites are you watching? See what I told you, Jeff? See what I told you about
That kind of show.
Yeah, it's that.
Let's elevate.
This is-
I thought I was elevating
No,
things here.
Well, you did for a
Back
while.
to the gutter you go.
No, right back to the gutter. All right.
All right, so the one line open is Vegas at Florida. Vegas played in Tampa last night, so I'm expecting an under. They're usually a high-scoring team, but coming on a back-to-back. Florida's not the best scoring, so take the under 6 in that. I'm also taking Vegas in regulation, and Vegas as the outright winner there.
Oh, look at that.
So might be playing on a back-to-back,
Yep.
but I think they take the win in Florida tonight.
It's so exciting when you do that.
Gutsy pick, too.
Yeah.
Pick Vegas
Oh,
to
now
beat Florida.
you need the mic back as
Vegas to beat Florida, eh? Woo-hoo. Laying it on the line.
Yeah.
Laying it on the line. The best team in the league against the...
See,
Okay.
Jeff,
I'm just being a jerk.
you would be good to go to Vegas with because it's kind of built in. You've got your representation at the same time. Something could happen.
Oh, sure. It just depends on what club you go to, though, I suppose.
I guess it does. I can't thank you enough for coming in. You've been a great fan of ours since we've been back in
always.
Toronto. And
Even at our former job at that place that used to deliver ratings.
well, that was a long time ago. And of course, I've got some news that will be coming up that I think we'll all be very excited about as we continue to move forward. So we appreciate all the support. But for Jeff, are they happy with these kinds of appearances at Ross and McBride? Do they?
Sure. From a standpoint of profile and publicity, but frankly, in terms of this is for me.
Oh.
This is fun for me. If they didn't like it, I'd still come in. Okay, it's just been a great treat.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. You're a great.
Very good.
There it is.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Yeah. See, that just happened. That's what happened
You
there.
want to go do karate in the garage?
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
It's time.
Would like to thank our good friend Jeff Manishin for coming in today, putting up with us, probably seeing some future clients for very obvious reasons, and doing picks with Victor Newman. And in fact, I'm trying to think of the years that Victor has been on my show. So going back 27 to 30 years, has someone stepped in and been with Victor in that respect? The answer is no. Seriously. So thanks so much to Jeff for coming in today. Have a great weekend. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think a lot of people praying for even colder weather and less points.
Yes.
Less points is good points. Have yourself a great weekend. Thanks so much.
Clark Judge on Monday, NFL. Bye-bye.